DP Summit 2024. And with me, my next guest is Rickey. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
And Rickey is a particularly exciting guest for the Build Version Lab because we usually get a perspective I would say, which is somehow limited. It might be a company that speak about their journey on developer productivity. It might be a team that talk about what they do or don't do. But it's rare that we have someone who has an insight on the entire industry. And Rickey, I think you as being part of ThoughtWorks, one of the highest quality consultancy companies in the world.
We would certainly say that,
right? and you folks will obviously know ThoughtWorks by Tech Radar and the books that they publish and everything else that goes with it. So it gives you the unique perspective on looking at the entire industry.
Yes, exactly. And at ThoughtWorks, because we deal with so many companies, we do have that unique look across the entire industry. We talk a lot about it from a technology standpoint via the Tech Radar, but I think we can talk about a couple of trends that we're seeing more and more across the industry, specifically when we start talking about developer productivity.
Absolutely, and that would be my question. How are we doing as an industry with developer productivity? Considering that we are biased, obviously, in Gradle.
Of course.
But you have the unbiased view, so how are we doing?
I think we're starting to do a lot better. I think if I talked about three trends that we're starting to see across the industry at ThoughtWorks, the first one would be we're starting to see a lot more focus on developer metrics, both the traditional ones like Dora, Space, DevX, but companies like Gradle are now opening the viewpoint of the more build and more technology-focused metrics. I know Hans talked about it earlier during the keynote. Those additional metrics, PR, test flakiness, we're starting to see more and more companies investing in the telemetry to identify those types of metrics. So that's extremely important. I think the other thing that we're starting to see more and more is our companies investing in platform engineering to help move the needle on some of the investments. So we're starting to see more and more companies take a more holistic approach to developer productivity and not focus on just CI/CD or testing or observability, and they're starting to make more platform plays. So building all of those capabilities directly into a platform so that they can reach the economies of scale that we would expect to see in the industry.
I have so many questions.
Go for it.
Questions. It's going to be great.
Of course.
So, first of all, after Hans' keynote, or during Hans' keynote, which was broadcasted live, I heard a couple of kind of opinions about like, hey, this is what Hans was saying is that, hey, after we nailed production systems observability, it's time to turn our gaze into the production that creates production, which is our development environments. And I heard some take like, hey, we are doing it for 10 years now. We have observability on our CI. Isn't it like enough?
I would say that it's not enough. I think one of the things that Hans mentioned was this idea about shifting left. I think we've been dipping our toe in the water of shift left, and that's the response that you're probably hearing. Hey, we've done the work to put in some CI/CD telemetry into that first stage, but I think moving even further left around local build environments, local development environments, that's going to be important. So that production that creates production, and then the pre-prod that creates that production, right? What's happening on my local machine? What are we? How are we getting to that production environment? And then that developer environment that's there is a shared environment. So optimizing and sub-optimizing around those things, I think it's going to be extremely important. And I think that's that next step that Hans was talking about during the keynote.
Absolutely. So yes, when we talk about, again, like a big industry trends, and I'm imagining the observability kind of spreading left Right, so yeah, we have a very good coverage, and I'm thinking about like heat map. So we have a very good coverage on the right. It's all red. It's all covered the production, and then it's getting bluer as we shift left. So where would you say the CI/CD pipelines are in this spreading observability left?
I think we're just starting at that point. I think that to Hans's point in the keynote, we've made that major investment in the production environment, and we're starting to see us move a little bit closer to doing that in that developer environment, that production before production. I think from a trend perspective, we're starting to see a lot more investment, not only in the CI/CD telemetry, but ephemeral CI environments, and having that as an early feedback loop or an early feedback indicator to we might be getting ready to experience some network connectivity issues or readiness issues when we go into our production environment. So we still need to make investments to continue to shift left, but we're starting to see some of the trends with different telemetry tools that are there and the advent of ephemeral CI environments.
Nice, nice. It makes sense. My other follow-up question for your opening was obviously the platform engineering.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's all the rage. It's like super popular. Everybody are talking about it, and everybody are talking about how they see different things in it. One of the takes that I kind of stuck with me is, hey, this is the new rebranding of the SRE.
Yes.
Right. So this is those folks that write all those YAML files and hated to be called site reliability engineers because people thought that they're maintaining their websites. Now they kind of have the right definition because it's really about the platform, right? It's the platform that our production rides on all the way from left to right, all the way from development to production, and it includes stuff like your CI/CD pipelines, but also stuff like your Kubernetes cluster, your Argo CD, and everything around it. So that's kind of one perspective on it, is a rebranding of SRE, DevOps engineer, or whatever. But I also think that it's not only that, or maybe not even that at all. What's your take on it?
I would say that it's certainly those things. I like that you said the SRE. I've heard the rebranding of DevOps and the rebranding of the DevOps engineer. It's certainly those things, but it's more holistic than that. If you think about a platform engineering, an engineering platform as the table that the business sits on top of. So that means that it's not only cloud native architecture, it's not only your Kubernetes architecture, it's not only your CI/CD pipeline. It's things like it's larger things that the business would need. Authentication should be a service provided by the platform. My observability in production, Datadog alerts, those things, all of those things should be holistically a part of the platform. And if they're there, we now have this interconnected business capability that's being provided back to the business. So it's not only about those parts and pieces, it's the productization of all of those different things that the business will need and the feedback loop between them.
I love it. So what I hear is all those services teams, this is that.
Yes.
And it includes developer productivity engineering.
Yes.
And it includes tooling. And it includes like whoever makes sure that the developers use the right IDE. All of that is part of this platform that then the feature teams can use all this platform and excel in just delivering features as fast as possible.
Exactly. The example that I give to a lot of organizations is, why would a team working on an invoice management system that's going to drive additional value to the business care that I'm using Jenkins to build those things, or care that I'm using GitHub Actions? Those are services that are provided to the teams in a self-service manner to move them as quickly as possible. Then it's the responsibility of the platform engineering team to identify areas of friction, to identify waste, and sub-optimize on those things, and then provide the capabilities back to the business.
This is great. Speaking about identifying the frictions and the bottlenecks. So again, I heard a lot of opinions about the best way to do it, and there is obviously this notion that, hey, if you didn't measure it, it does not exist, and the only right way to go is some kind of dashboards with numbers. But I also heard very smart people, and Max Carrot from LinkedIn is one of those, who is preaching just talking to developers. Right, so the way he mentioned they do it is a lot of surveys that kind of they ask the developers what doesn't work or what does work. Why suddenly this need to actually talk to someone to get metrics when we were working on metrics for years with just automation of everything as the most praised value of how we collect metrics?
I think we reached a tipping point where the metrics just became numbers and there was something else that was additive that was needed. It could have been this switch to a product-centered approach for not only the business platforms and the value that we're delivering from a business. I know there was a huge UI, UX, and human-centered design and CX initiative across a lot of different companies. I think that moved us in a direction where we not only needed to have the quantitative metrics that were there as a part of a way to measure value, but also the qualitative metrics. That additive piece gives us multiple dimensions to look at a problem through. It's not just that my MTTR or my lead time decreased. The qualitative metrics also give organizations and the industry as a whole the ability to dig into why did my lead time change? What are my developers now experiencing? And add in that additional layer and context to, hey, I'm going to reduce PR times from 8 hours to 4 hours. Oh, wait, I have a team that's in England and in the US. Without talking to the developers, I never understand, I'm not gonna be able to achieve that anyway. So it gives us that additional context to be able to take a look at those things. I will add something in as well. At ThoughtWorks, we like to marry those. We do the same thing, as Max mentioned, that they're doing at LinkedIn. We look at the quantitative metrics, the qualitative metrics, but then we also visualize those with value stream mapping so that we're able to identify individual activities that may be a source of a bottleneck or an area of friction, and then add in those additional contexts. So shameless plug that at ThoughtWorks we add in the value stream mapping.
It makes sense. So when we talk about asking developers for their frictions, considering that this is not your typical metrics gathering, which is used to be very engineering task, which is exactly what we do. Here we're suddenly in an uncharted territory, not only uncharted, but also foreign for a lot of hardcore engineers. Soft skills, as talking to people, asking the right questions. What would be your advice on how do you approach it? Because what I hear from a lot of developers and people who ask those questions is that, yikes, we don't like it. They waste our time by asking all those questions and all those meetings. Let's just automate it. And from the other side, hey, they don't want to talk to us. And then we do something and they hate us for it, but hey, we asked, you didn't tell us. And all, like a lot of that.
It's a lot of friction there.
A lot of friction and soft skills dynamics that are foreign for a lot of hardcore engineers who used to collect metrics in a very mechanical and technical way. So what would be your advice? How can we do it better? How can we mitigate some of those?
So I think there's a couple of things that we can do. I have a unique perspective. I'm doing this all the time. I'm working with organizations right now where we're going in and doing these types of activities. I think one of the things that we can do is pairing some of the technical staff with a product person that may be more inclined in doing the user research, that's more used to those types of activities. But then I also think that developers are extremely opinionated no matter what. I think just asking the right questions to start off with, hey, what's the most annoying thing that you have to deal with during the day? And it may turn out to be, we've got meetings, the stand-up time is wrong. We're very opinionated individuals, and we generally have an answer for those questions. I think where the mistrust may creep in is when it feels like, as a developer, you get people constantly asking those questions and you don't see any actual response from those. So if I've got 7 or 8 different people a week asking me what's going wrong, what are you dealing with, what's the problems, but then a year goes by and there's no real response to that, I feel like I start to mistrust that process. So I would say that in addition to maybe pairing a product person there and just trusting the developers will give you the response, be proactive in taking 1 or 2 of those things that feel really easy and responding to those, so that there starts to become a trust in that process and that feedback loop gets strengthened.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, here I hear you. Being in developer advocacy, a lot of what we do is gathering feedback. But then it's not always up to us to decide what of this feedback we'll implement it. And when we meet those people again, and they're okay, we gave you feedback. Why are you asking us again? What about the feedback
That I already gave you?
time?
Yes.
So yeah, no, this is absolutely right. They're taking those long-hanging fruits and implementing them, and then communicating back to those teams like, hey, we did it. Did it make your life better?
Exactly.
This is very important. Well, Rickey, that was a pleasure. That was excellent. Thank you very much for coming, for doing
Definitely
that.
a pleasure.
Yep.
Yes.
And for you folks, stay tuned for more of this kind of awesomeness at the Build Proposal Lab at DP Summit 2024, and we'll see you.